Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Um, I think at Aisha's, I will just second what Aisha just said, that please turn on your cameras. Unless, Faisal, you have a wonderful line to request the audience to turn on the camera.
No, I'll just no. I think I think interactions become more powerful, but I don't want to make anybody come uncomfortable either. So I think it's perfectly fine as long as we're interacting.
Good. So thank you, Aisha, for the kind introductions, and maybe I will ask Faisal to introduce himself, and then I will take a chance. Or we can do vice versa too. But maybe how about Faisal? Why don't you introduce yourself?
So introduce myself. So my name is Faisal Aziz, as you mentioned. I think first of all, thank you for inviting me. I wished we had these opportunities when we were medical students, very frankly. So both Umar and myself were classmates, and I believe we're classmates with your mom. We graduated about 20 years ago from medical school, and I think life has been a journey. It's been an interesting journey for all of us. And Omar, I know you, you're a personal friend, but if I look at all of us as to how each of us have done different things and got where we got and learned lessons from many mentors, including Dr. Arif Asif and many others, including many others in our careers. So I wish sometimes that we had the opportunity, and I think you guys are very lucky to have these opportunities. Omar?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Faisal. So again, my name is Omar Farooq. I'm a nephrologist, and we both graduated from, 20 years ago, you're right, so 2001 from King Edward. And for the last 10 plus years, we have been together at the same institution, Penn State Health. Faisal is a vascular surgeon, I'm a nephrologist, so we have we started our career as faculty at Penn State, and we continue to be here. I think, like, thinking back about the story, let me share the story of VFORT. So I think it's very important to understand the base, like why we are here, and then back in 2016, this is when this idea was hashed. This thing started as VFORT. And one of our physician colleague from Pakistan, Dr. Saeed Akhtar, he was visiting Chicago as to do the fundraiser for his PKI, Pakistan Kidney Institute, which offers free surgical treatment and healthcare at Shifa International at that time. And you all know about the PKLI, Pakistan Kidney and Liver Institute. So PKLI was in the planning phase at that time. And I think one of the discussions we had was liver disease. Liver disease is very, very endemic and like epidemic in Pakistan. And there were the hepatitis B and C was on the rise. And while there was discussion and this vision of this large mega, more than close to 1,000-bedded hospital to offer liver transplants, I think we all felt that there is need before the patient reach to the end-stage liver disease. There is a need to prevent the B and C. There is need for early detection. And it was around the same time when hepatitis C drugs, they were coming, getting the FDA approval. And now that you can treat hepatitis C very easily. And then for hepatitis B, you have vaccine and you can prevent. So we embarked on this journey. I know Dr. Shafi, myself, Dr. Amara, who was our third faculty partner, we all kind of sat down. We had many sessions. We had, and we started with our first volunteer group. I remember back in 2016, we had the inaugural kind of the first oath taking ceremony in Lahore. We all flew to Lahore and we embarked on this journey. I questioned my colleagues that, what do you think about the future? Because there was a big vision for VFORT to grow, have a footprint beyond a city or one med school to the entire Pakistan and start raising the awareness everywhere. But I think a lot of people questioned the vision. People were not invested into it. They saw that, oh, this may be an effort for maybe a year, 6 months. You will have a lot of resistance. And trust me, we had a lot of resistance. But you know what? This was the right thing to do at the right time for the right reason and the right cost. People found a lot of value. They were personally, so our students were individually invested. We found right-minded people. We created local councils. We asked the local faculty to be the mentors, to be the faculty, leaders at each med school. So we quickly, the number of volunteers increased more than 1,000. And then the journey continued. We evolved from, VFORT, then it emerged as IPAC, which is the Infection Prevention and Control Foundation. So it has gone from hepatitis to other infectious conditions, tuberculosis, you talk about HIV, you talk about vaccination, and then COVID hit. So all of these things, has helped this organization, all of us, to grow together as a team. So a vision, an idea 5 years ago, people did not buy into it. And here in 2021, now you see that this has emerged as a powerful platform for all of you to work together to help others. So I'll stop here. I have another story or two to share, but I will ask Faisal as how he feels about the activity of especially this leadership workshop in the VCon, as why it's important. And we were medical students maybe a few decades ago now, and we were there where you are. How this activity or how this vision will help all of you and our future students in the coming years?
I will answer. Does anybody else have any other questions at all or not? Does it feel awkward to ask questions on the Zoom like this?
I think if anyone has any questions, you can type it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and I'll call on you, and then you can ask the question yourself if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, so I think Umar, is a very beautiful story, but I think I'll also say that throughout our medical training in during medical school, it was we learned a lot of different things, right? We learned anatomy, we learned physiology, we learned biochemistry. Some people failed, somebody passed. We felt like we were learning so many things. But throughout the 5 years, nobody talked to us about the importance of what doctors can do, how much influence doctors have on our patients, on the families of the patients. And nobody told us the importance of that, right? If you think about this, we are the people on whom all our patients confide everything. They will tell everything about themselves to us. It's such a powerful tool. People, there's nothing as strong as human beings, which we can feel as compared to when people share there's so many personal things with us, and that brings us in a position to influence others, to lead others. I mean, a doctor does not necessarily have to write medications or to treat patients, right? We have influence as well, but nobody teaches us that influence. And I think that's the sad part. And Umar and myself talk a lot about this as well. So I think, you guys are very fortunate that at your age, very young age, you're getting exposed to people like Dr. Asif, as we talked, as he was giving the talk. I feel like myself and Umar, when we talked to him, he's a generation ahead of us. And we felt like we learned a lot. I mean, there's so many things that he told that, I did not know. But that is the beauty of it, that with this platform, that you guys are learning so many different things which otherwise you did not have the opportunity. Before I answer your question, I know there's a question from Khobab. I'm going to ask the question to audience. Do you guys now at the current age, do you have any experience in leadership or any exposure to leadership? Aisha, I'm going to ask you, since I see you on the webcam, and tell us something about yourself. What stage in career you are, and anything that you have learned about leadership so far.
Aisha is a fearless leader. She has been leading the National Council, and she has all the ingredients which a successful leader has. So Aisha, why don't you take a shot on it?
Thank you, Dr. Umar, that you're very kind. Thank you for your kind words. As for your question, Dr. Aziz, as Dr. Umar mentioned, I have been the president of VFOD Pakistan for the last 2 years. This is my second year. And even before then, leadership has been something that's always, I think we will talk about this as well, if you're born leaders or if you can learn leadership, as Dr. Arif Asif mentioned in his talk, and that's something you addressed as well. So for me, I feel like it was something that came sort of naturally, but throughout all of it, I did also have to work on it and polish my skills, if you must say. So for me, I think leadership is mostly about teamwork and about, again, I would really agree with what Dr. Arif Asif said about leading from behind. Taking VCon 2021 as an example, I feel like this event has been a great, it has been a great experience for me managing it, because I've had a great team. All of those people who've done their role, played their part, all of the members of the National Council, all of the presidents from different local councils. So I feel like in this situation, in this scenario, leading from behind is what I've done. And I think it has worked out really well. That is my answer, but I would also like to call on Khubaib, because he's the president of our Rawalpindi Medical University chapter. So Khubaib, if you can answer this question too.
हाँ, आई थिंक जरूरी ये है कि अब जो हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं वो अब क्वेश्चन करें और फिर उसको आंसर किया जाए.
बिल्कुल. Assalamu alaikum,
sir. Thank you for the wonderful interview. It was very helpful. So I would say that when I entered the medical school, I started a few clubs and societies in my own college. So when I saw the opportunity of VFAT, I saw it as a great opportunity to excel in my leadership. So मैंने फिर इसमें ज्वाइन किया 2 साल पहले, और आयशा के साथ भी जो है 2 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ. So it has been a wonderful experience working with VFAT. और मेरा सवाल ये था कि आप लोगों से कि how can medical school teach leadership to their students? Like वो क्या करिकुलम में इंक्लूड होना चाहिए, लाइक उन्हें सिलेबस मुतारिफ करवाना चाहिए? So what do you think?
So Umar, do you want me to tackle or do you want to tackle?
Yeah, no, मैं यही सोच रहा था कि फैसल आप टैकल करें, क्योंकि फैसल जो है वो इस वक्त नेशनल अमेरिका में भी जो एजुकेशन की करिकुलम की नेशनल कमिटीज है, ही इज अ प्रोग्राम डायरेक्टर फॉर द वैस्कुलर सर्जरी प्रोग्राम, प्लस जो सोसाइटी ऑफ जो प्रोग्राम डायरेक्टर्स है उसकी एजुकेशन कमेटी के प्रेसिडेंट है. तो फैसल का एजुकेशन का नॉलेज जो है बड़ा जबरदस्त है. तो फैसल आप जरा इस पे बात करें.
Thank you for your kind introduction, or thank you. You're too kind.
और मुझे जरा सख्ती से हिदायत भी मिल रही हैं कि हमें उर्दू में भी बात करनी है.
Okay. So I think it's a very interesting question. I'll answer you by this. So if we look around us, right? So how do you define leaders? So you guys are very young, but something important to remember. So write down a name that Umar knows that I quote a lot, I read a lot. His name is a guy named John Maxwell. He's written books and books and books about leadership. So he defines 5 levels of leadership. So the most common mistake that all of us do is that we look at the title of a person and say, oh my God, this person is so powerful. For example, somebody could be a president of a society. Somebody could be chairman of something, or somebody could be big in charge of anything. So the first mistake what we do is to think that somebody who has title is a leader. So that's a mistake, right? So the first level of leadership is then when people follow you because they have to. John Maxwell keeps talking about it, that if somebody is a chairman or a chair or has big title, people will follow that person. He or she is not necessarily a leader. People are fond of that person just because for example, our chair of your head of physiology, people are scared of that person. People are like listening to that person. Is that person a leader? No, everybody has to pass the physiology professional exam, so they have to respect that person. But the question is, after you pass the exam, can you still think about that person or not? And if the answer is no, then that person is likely not a leader. And if you can still remember, then yes. So the first thing to remember is that leaders have influence, right? So if you look around you, I promise to you, if you look around you in any class that you're in, or any group of people that you're in, we are surrounded by leaders, right? So Dr. Asif talked about Mother Teresa. We have Abdul Sattar Edhi. We have many people, right? Not everybody has to stand up on the mountain with a flag in their hand and say, yes, I'm the leader. We all have leaders surrounding us. And how do we know who these leaders are? Because these are most of the times people who are very selfless. And I know I can tell somebody's a leader when somebody, he or she, is invested in others more than themselves. I mean, there's such a unique characteristic around us, right? You know many people. I know many, many friends from childhood. We all have people around us who are just so invested in making this successful, that successful, this successful, make this work, and yet not paying attention to themselves. That is leadership. That's where so a part of it is innate. Some people are just born with it, and some people, of course, have to learn it. So you answer your question, what can medical schools do? So what medical schools can do, number one, is to role model such behaviors. So first of all, all our teachers around us, if they become our role models, if they become leaders, that would be a great thing. So I think in order to teach students, first of all, we have to teach the teachers. And looking back at our medical school, we had great teachers. We have many set of great teachers. But looking back, I feel like if our teachers were new, if all of our teachers knew that that they have such an important influence on us, we would have learned. Second thing, what I think medical schools can do is to invest in it. And you're right, adding some sort of curriculum to it. And curriculum does not have to say leadership. It could be other things, like how to live life as a successful doctor, or how to be a good human being, or something like that. But if you the other thing about learning about leadership, which we have learned, is that we will not learn anything unless we think about it. Right. So every day we have to come up with a strategy that we at least consciously thinking about it. I can tell you very honestly, in my 5 years of medical school, I just cared about passing the exam and going to the next level. I mean, there was the rest of the stuff, leadership or this or that. Nobody taught us. Nobody told us, and we didn't even had the audacity to think about this. But if you have something in curriculum, I would hate to have a curriculum about leadership when people have pass-fail game, because that just kills the incentive to study. I think it should be some curriculum, but it should be for fun. Like, people who really want to learn should learn. People who think it's boring or not, well, they should not learn that. But I think that would be really, really good thing to do. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Dr. Faisal. Okay, my next question is from you, Dr. Umar. Someone asked in the comment section कि क्या एक अच्छा leader जो है, एक अच्छा रहनुमा जो है, वो एक अच्छा manager भी हो सकता है, या फिर जो अच्छा manager हो, every manager जो है, can they be a good leader? एक अच्छा रहनुमा हो सकता है नहीं? तो आपका क्या ख्याल है इसके बारे में?
Yeah, I think this question get asked a lot. So there's a fundamental difference between leader and a manager. You can be a good manager and can be a good leader, but sometimes, some managers are so focused on the management of day-to-day things that they forget the leadership. So, फर्क क्या है? ठीक है, leaders जो हैं वो Dr. Asif ने बोला कि they set the vision, ठीक है, और they can see, they have those glasses जो कि आपको वो you can see beyond, ठीक है, आपको थोड़ा future में देख सकते हैं. I think ये एक बड़ी जबरदस्त वो है ट्रेट है जो कि लीडर्स जो है या वो लर्न करते हैं या उनमें होता है. और मेरे ख्याल में ये जो मैनेजर्स हैं वो they are so focused on managing the day-to-day things. They are making sure that boxes are checked. So they're good at checking the boxes. लेकिन जो lead करना है वो थोड़ा different है. So leadership is it's all about influence, nothing more, nothing less. This is the good quote by और हम दोनों मेरे ख्याल उसको John Maxwell को बहुत पढ़ते हैं. So this is what he does. लीडर आपके जो हैं वो पीपल फोकस्ड हैं, वो इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं, वो इन्फ्लुएंस द हार्ट, ठीक है, वो लोगों को मोटिवेट करते हैं। मैनेजर वर्क फोकस होते हैं, उन्होंने अपना काम जो है वो अच्छे तरीके से हुआ है कि नहीं, वो बॉक्सेस चेक हुए कि नहीं, ये थोड़े से सिंपल से चीजें ना, मतलब किसी ने विजन सेट किया, किसी ने इम्प्लीमेंट भी तो करना है। यू नीड अ गुड मैनेजर एज वेल, जो कि विजन को, जो कि आपकी स्ट्रैटेजी को, जो कि आपकी उन चीजों को इम्प्लीमेंट कर सके। तो लीडर्स के पास फॉलोअर्स होते हैं, ठीक है, मैनेजर्स के पास सबॉर्डिनेट्स होते हैं। तो ये बड़ी बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन डू द राइट थिंग्स एंड हाउ टू डू थिंग्स राइट, ठीक है। तो देखिए, एनीबॉडी कैन स्टीयर द शिप, ये लीडर का काम होता है कि उसने चार कोर्स को उसने बताना है कि भाई डायरेक्शन क्या है, ठीक है। गाड़ी में आप बैठे हैं, आप गाड़ी, बंदा गाड़ी चला रहा है, वो जो डायरेक्शन सेट करना है ना, वो लीडर का काम है। हाँ, अच्छा मैनेजर अच्छी गाड़ी जरूर चलाएगा। तो ये एक बड़ा फंडामेंटल सा डिफरेंस है। तो ये आपको सोचना चाहिए मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स को स्टेट ऑफ लाइफ में, कि जैसे Faisal started earlier and he talked कि physicians have a lot of influence just by virtue of the fact that they are physicians. They have influence on patients, their families. You also have influence on your teams. आपके पास आहिस्ता आहिस्ता मतलब you'll have residents with you, you have colleagues, students, younger students आपके साथ होंगे. So you will have that opportunity to really try your influence and see how it works in your teams, and it's all about teamwork. So there is difference between leader and a manager. I hope I answered the question, Aisha.
Yes, Dr. Umar, I hope so too. If there's anything you guys want to add further on this, please type in the comment section in the chat box below. Before I move on to the next question, हमारे पास एक poll है. Let's see कि कुछ questions हैं जो participants जिनको answer कर सकते हैं. Participants, Mariam, can you please share the poll? और पार्टिसिपेंट्स, मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करती हूँ कि आप इन सब क्वेश्चंस के आंसर करें और उसके बाद हम उसके रिजल्ट्स देखेंगे एंड विल सी के कितने लोगों का क्या ख्याल है जो है उन सवालों के बारे में, उनके शेयर रिजल्ट्स देख के तो वी कैन हैव अ कमेंट ऑन दोज एज वेल. मेसम, ओवर टू यू.
Are people able to poll here? You guys see कि 0% people voted. अगर वो उनको नजर आ रहा है कि नहीं, और how to poll? You just click on the.
आप लोग उस ऑप्शन पे क्लिक करें जो आपका क्वेश्चन पढ़ें और फिर उसके बाद उस आंसर पे क्लिक करें जो आपको लगता है कि बेहतर आंसर है. ओके, सो बेसिकली हमारे पास 3 क्वेश्चंस हैं. द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज कि हमारे जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं, इन देयर ओपिनियन सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट क्वालिटी जो है वो क्या ऐसी चीज होनी चाहिए जो लीडर के पास होनी चाहिए? इंटेग्रिटी, नॉलेज एंड स्किल, स्ट्रॉन्ग वर्क एथिक या रिलायबिलिटी एंड ऑनेस्टी. अभी तक हमारे पास 10 लोगों ने वोट किए 21 में से, जिनमें से सबसे ज्यादा लोग जो है वो कहते हैं कि रिलायबिलिटी एंड ऑनेस्टी इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. वो लेट्स सी बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस पोल हमारे पास क्या रिजल्ट्स हैं. Question number 2 is there a way to be competitive?
Sorry.
Mesam, over to you.
Question number 2, is there a way to be competitive without wearing out your competition? आपने बस सोचना है कि आपको क्या सही लगता है. There is no right or wrong answer right now. Whatever you feel is correct, whatever जो आपके notion है, उस हिसाब से आप इसका जवाब दीजिए. So question number 3 is, in your opinion, which of the following stands true about being a leader? कौन सी चीज ऐसी है जो लीडर होने के बारे में सच है? लीडर क्या leaders are born and not made, or anyone can learn how to be a leader? मतलब कि लीडर जो है क्या हमेशा पैदा ही होते हैं कि वो बनना सीख भी सकते हैं?
हमारे पास इस कॉल में 25 participants हैं. I would request all of you to vote. हम लोग ये poll end कर देंगे in the next 30 seconds. All right. So we have the answers. Let's end the poll and let's look at the results. Mason, will you please read out the results?
Aisha, I can't see the results.
Okay.
I think they are displayed on the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Now they're on. So for question number 1, which was, in your opinion, what is the most important quality that leaders should have? The most popular answer was reliability and honesty, followed by integrity, knowledge, and skill equally. And then at the last, we had strong work ethic. For question number 2, it was, is there a way to be competitive without winning out in competition? 63.2 people said yes, 36.8 said no. And for the last one, in your opinion, which of the following stands true about being a leader? So the vast majority of people said anyone can learn how to be a leader, 89.5, which was the message displayed in the video. And only 10.5 people said that leaders can be born and not made.
So Mason, I think it would be nice to talk about these polls and these things. I mean, which question do you want us to take a deep dive on? Maybe question number 3 first, and then we will make ourselves backwards.
Yes, sure.
Acha, the question is, born leader versus this can be learned, innate versus acquired leadership. You know what? Growing up, I was always of the opinion that, this is something either you are born with or not. But over the years, personally, I have changed my own opinion. And I'm now with the majority in this poll. So 89%, which is like, a very overwhelming majority thinks that this can be learned. And I think that's the kind of message which is heartwarming and close to our hearts. कि भाई, it's not कि आपको इंतजार करना है कि आप फिर से दोबारा पैदा हो और दोबारा वो लीडर की उसमें हो. I mean, this is something you can learn. Faisal, what do you think about this poll? क्योंकि मुझे बड़ा interesting. I was thinking 50-50, लेकिन अच्छा लगा कि लोग जो हैं वो unified है इस में think करने के बारे में.
Yeah, so answer is complex. So I agree with the overall answer, right? But so there's certain traits which we have, by birth. Integrity, for example, or honesty, that people said. There's certain things which we all have. You have to have basic ingredients, right? You have to have these certain, I think these are important values as we grow up, or not born, how we're raised. I think that's just so important to have those ingredients. Once you have these ingredients, then other things can, many of the things can be learned. So I tell you in my personal example. So what I've learned in my life, and I we all learn by mistakes, is I always felt that, if you are on the top of your class, if you have the highest scores, if you're the A student, that people, all you become the leader. And I've learned from my mistakes is that, the higher you go, without caring about others, people don't like it. People, are either become jealous, very frankly, or they would just say, this person is all about himself or herself. That does not bring leadership. What I've learned is that when you of course, we all have to focus on our careers and our lives. That's important. But on top of that, one thing which, for example, which I have learned over the course of time is to how to care about others. So my fault is, Omar knows me very well. We're friends. I'm very blunt, and I'm just born this way that I don't care about others. That's my fault, and I know that. But what I had to learn throughout my life is that I have to care about others. We live in a society. We live with other human beings. We cannot live in a society unless we genuinely care about other human beings. So that's something which I learned with the passage of time, was that you cannot be on the top of every mountain and expect people to be with you. No, people will not come with you. People will not, but there's a famous saying, people don't care how much you have achieved. People care how much you care about them. It's a very beautiful statement if you think about it. People around us have to know that we care about them, and you can't fake it. You have to care about other people, because human beings are very smart beings. We as human beings can pick up on little things. We know, who is genuine, who's not genuine, who is saying hello to us just because he or she has to say hello to us. We know if somebody's saying hello to us, who is saying it genuinely with heart, who is saying it with a smile. So I think, in my journey in my life, I've learned is that you have to, if you have to go far, as Umar said, you have to go with others. So that's something which I learned. And I'm sure all of us have learned a little bit, bits and pieces as we have gone through our lives. But it is so important that some of the characteristics we're born with, and some of the things we just have to learn over the course of the years. Omar, I'm looking at the chat. I think people are asking questions. People are just writing questions. I would love to have people ask questions, because that makes it more attractive. But I think somebody said something which was my question throughout my life. Somebody said, Omar, I'm going to ask you that question. It's a beautiful question. It's asked by Ispa Rashid. So the question is, I think it's a very nice session. Thank you so much. It said, please highlight the role of resistance that senior people in the conventional system, if taught, offer your thoughts about that. And what's the role of lack of insight that these people offer, rather snub them? How do you tackle that? I mean, that was my question throughout my student life. I'm nobody. I'm just a student out of 200 in the class, and nobody cares about me. These people who are role models don't think too much about it.
Yeah, I think the resistance question, and there was a resistance in context to my comment about when we launched VFORT. I think we had resistance earlier on, and I think I alluded to something that the resistance is because of the change, because of something new. And if you look at the personality spread, like you look at the nation, or you look at different personality types, resistance is bound to happen for anything new, because whether you talk about the mindsets, your views, your political views, your personality types, some people, they are inherently very conservative. They are just not ready for anything new, anything which is different, anything which is which looks like a change. And some people they are just ready. You bring they get super excited. You bring something new, they will try that new thing. They may not maintain the interest into that new thing for beyond 6 seconds, 6 minutes, or 6 months. So, and then you have like a very large group in the middle, who I sometimes call undecided voters. Or the other nice way to say is, like, there are people who are very pragmatic. So they have they want to have 80-90% of their base is like, they want to stick to the base, but then they want to make a small change, 10, 15, 20%. So I think that if we understand this spread of personality types, then it's easy to understand resistance is bound to happen, is meant to happen. So people don't want change, or they don't like change, or they feel threatened, or they're so uncomfortable. And I think that's where you as a leader, that's where you need to show perseverance. You need to have determination. If you know that, if you have an initiative, your initiative is great. And by the way, there is always an opportunity to grow and improve your initiative. So, and then you go take it back to your people. Just when you have, I always understand, and when I go back with a new initiative, I know that there will be some resistance. So I prepare myself, okay, if I'm challenged with one question, how I'm going to answer this. If I'm challenged with somebody who wants to maybe, they may like half of it and not the other half. So I need to make sure that my pitch is right. I need to make sure that I work hard myself. You need to really deserve first, then desire. You need to work hard. You need to improve. You need to be the better version of yourself. And then once you're on the right pathway, you have the burning platform, then you have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. And that determination is very, very important. So this is the way you go through the resistance. होता क्या है कि आपको रेजिस्टेंस मिली, आपका अच्छा इनिशिएटिव था, आप डिस्करेज हो गए, आपने वो प्रोजेक्ट को वाइंड अप किया, अब आप नए प्रोजेक्ट पे लग गए, अब आपने नया काम शुरू कर दिया. तो जो आपने काम शुरू किया था वो तो कभी नहीं मुकम्मल होगा ना. फिर कौन जीता? रेजिस्टेंस जीत गई और आप एक नए प्रोजेक्ट में हैं. What do you think it's going to happen? There will be more resistance, right? So Faisal, maybe I know you love to talk about the resistance in the system and how to tackle that, or maybe I think this is because sometimes you have to go through these layers.
Yeah, no. So I'll chip in as well, because this was my question throughout my lifetime, and I'll be very honest. In Pakistan, the society that we grow in, especially in medical school, we cannot change our seniors. We cannot change our teachers. So when I was in medical college, I'll share a story with you that I was very frustrated in my third year. One of our teachers in pharmacology was mad at me for some reason, for something wrong that I did, but nothing to do with my academics, but somebody was just annoyed at me. So I suffered a few times from the exams and that. So I was very frustrated that, this person is so annoyed at me, such a high level position. I can't do anything, he or she has authority to do that. So one of my very good friends, was senior at that time, advised me something. He said, Faisal, listen, you cannot change this person, right? And I was like, yes, I can, what can I say? I said, I'm sorry, sir. Wouldn't that be enough? I turned my face and looked really sorry. That's all I could do to express that I'm really sorry. But no, I was not forgiven. So I said, what can I do? He said, Faisal, there's one thing you can do. And I said, what is that? And he said, learn from it. And years from now, when you are in this position, tell yourself you are not going to be that person. And I felt like there was such a strong thing which I learned that I told myself that this is what I'm suffering from. But when I grow up, when years pass by, I will tell myself not to behave like this ever. And when many years later I came in similar positions, but sometimes residents or students can sometimes really annoy you. And Umar knows me. I mean, as like any surgeon, I'm short-tempered as well. So something can really annoy you, and you're like, I can't believe this person is so disrespectful. And this person should learn a lesson. And that's when that moment clicks in my mind that, listen, I was in that person's shoes many years ago, and I promised to myself that I will be a better person. I will be a better role model. And if I have to change myself, I promised to myself many years ago. So that's something important. So in your shoes, if you feel like, some senior person is reluctant or resistant, learn something from them. Make a note to yourself. I will not be like that person when I grow up. Something to learn from. Are there other questions as well? Aisha, do you want to ask questions?
Thank you, Dr. Umar and Dr. Faisal Aziz. I completely agree with you. Don't give up. Keep working hard despite resistance, and secondly, learn from it. I think this is like the shortest summary that I can give Dono talks ki. Okay, so Isba Rashid, you've raised your hand. Can you please unmute your mic and ask your question?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. It's a very nice session. I'm working in Pakistan Institute of Medical Sciences in the General Surgery Department, and I have completed my training. Now I'm a medical officer here, and I'm finding this session very informative and very encouraging in all aspects, and kind of rectification sort of a session. I asked this question and it was very well answered in all aspects, and I had only heard about Dr. Faisal, but now I've seen him and heard his views, and I so agree with him in this, that many of the people like we said, can learn to become leaders. But yes, all these conventional people who learn from the resistance, like Dr. Faisal learned from the resistance, that he does not have to offer this resistance to others. Rather, they learn that whatever resistance is offered to them, they have to give it on to the next generation, or whenever any person in the same situation lands to their court, they will have to give the same resistance to them as well. So that is something which is learning against leadership. Now, they would never become good leaders, and they will never become an initiative for a change. So basically, these people are the basic hurdles, and they are stopping the change. And sometimes you cannot change them or do anything about them, like sir said. So this is an important point. What I wanted to talk about, another important issue, was that whenever a leader makes an initiative and he is accepted by the mob and people do follow him, and then things do get well, many of the strategies are put into the plan, and these things do happen. But later in life, whether immediately or a bit more later, some of these people would go against him, like personality attacks, and to make him emotionally upset. And at that time, that leader collapses. So what is your view about this
Yeah, I
point
think,
in all this conventional system point?
thank you. So the question is, like, there's a leader who had a successful strategy and who was successful in implementing in that strategy. Now he has a lot of influence, which also has some impact on his some other people who don't see this. They cannot just handle their own internal emotions, and now they started attacking that leader personally, and not the work, but and then really try to get under their skin and make them fearful, and at that time are annoyed and angry. And that time that person loses him or herself, lost the self-awareness, and started tackling back, or started attacking back in the same token, and collapses. I think this is it happens. I can just think of some examples. So this is one. So the criticism and people who really like to pull you down, this is an important aspect of leadership. As a leader, you need to remember, and you need to get tough, you need to get resilient, you need to be ready and expect that there will be some people who are trying to get under your skin, who will try, who use this tactic, and then they will occupy a big portion of your brain and your thoughts. So that self-awareness is the first step. So I think, let me share you another story. 2 years ago, I met Dr. Asif, and I asked him the same question. So he invited me in New Jersey to give a talk to his in a conference. So I went there and I asked him the same question. I was in his office. So he took me to his office. He drew a very nice graph. So I cannot draw it here, but I can show you. So he said, if this is your target, set up your goal and focus on your goal. Once you're on your goal, you stay out, just focus on the goal and keep working towards it. Sometimes those people who like to pull you down, you just ignore them. And then you keep going. I think, to me, the simplest, although not simple to answer, but not simple to practice, because we all are victim of being criticized and then react to the criticism, is, self-awareness, self-control. Sometimes restraint, you sit back, you look at the situation with logic, and then you stick to your course, and then you keep going to your goal and objective, and try to be and stay objective rather than becoming the victim of subjectivity. Again, hard to practice, easy to say. Faisal, your take on it.
So no, it's whoever asked this question, this is a very, very good question. And I'll summarize it by saying, there's a very famous book you should read, probably. It's called Givers and Takers in Life. So if you look in life, there are two kind of different people. Some people are just takers, they take everything. And some people are givers, like from Mother Teresa to Star Edie. Leaders, when we think about ourselves, all of us are leaders, in some aspect. every human being has a giver-taker potential, right? We have a ratio. Everybody, we take certain things, we give certain things. Anybody in any leadership position or leadership role, I would say, not position, you are a giver. So you have to tell yourself, if you are in a position of authority, you are a giver. You have to give people. And that's very difficult things to do. Very difficult thing to do. As a human, we are not born to give. We're born to take things from others. So it's very difficult to give others. And what it means is that the higher you go in life, the more God gives you, the more grace He gives you. You have to learn how to forgive others, how to let it go. And the more you become forgiving, you realize the bigger the leader you've become. The more your potential has become. It's almost like, when we are born, imagine this, when we all, 2-month-old or 3-month-old babies, or we have younger siblings, 2-3 months old. And the way our mothers behave to our babies, to their babies, it's one prime example of what leader is, right? So you can see, a mom is sitting, I've seen it many times. My wife, she's reading a newspaper or something, little baby comes in and just slaps the newspaper. So what does a mom do? I mean, she must be doing something interesting or something very, but she wants to read something, but this little baby comes and just destroys everything. She doesn't do, how many times, yes, mothers can be angry, but if mothers start to be angry at every little thing that kids do, we all be dead in our childhood. But a child will come, baby will come and spill the tea or spill the coffee or, destroy everything. Or do something else silly. But mothers are forgiving, right? That's what we learn in our childhood. Mothers are forgiving. So our mothers, the first interaction, the first leaders that we all see in our lifetimes are actually our mothers. And then, our fathers, our parents. Why? If you think about it, because whenever you become a parent, Allah gives you this huge thing in your mind that you become a giver. All of a sudden, all of us who are parents know that the day you become a parent, you realize you become a giver. All of a sudden, it just happens to all of us, not only humans, but to animals as well. And that's the first characteristic, that any first trait of a leader is you become a giver. So what you're saying is so true. Like, some things are annoying as a leader. People come and, they annoy you and they test your patience. And I feel like, the bigger is your potential to give, the bigger is your potential to forgive, the bigger person you become and the bigger leader you become. I mean, we all have an example of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did he ever say that he's the leader? Did he ever, proclaim his leadership? No, he is a role model for others. And he was the most forgiving person that we know, right? So that forgiveness, that honesty,